Alright, good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. Today I'm going to be doing a summary video of every single Black Friday ship that's available. So here they are on the bottom here. As you can see, I primary shipped all of them. So I'm just going to walk through and summarize each of the ships and just talk about their strengths and their weaknesses. Talk about maybe how to play them slightly in a short format. Obviously, I'm not going to be playing a game in each ship because that would take us like a 4-hour video or something. So I'm just going to just summarize them like we did back in the day when I used to do the summary videos, which you guys used to like. Also, in this one, I wanted to add a thing where I actually show you the builds for each ship. So I actually made it a point to feature each of the builds for each and every Black Friday ship. But yeah, so something I wanted to mention before we started is if you want to skip to any part or any ship of the video, I'll keep each ship chaptered in this video. So if you, for example, you only care about, I don't know, mines, for example, you can skip to that part and see what I talk about with the mines. Or if you want to skip to Massachusetts, you can. I will chapter the video. I do take my time to chapter the video, so do make use of that feature that YouTube gives us. Thank you so much, guys, and have fun with the video. I think we should start off with Yoshino. So here we are. Let's start off with the armor layout for Yoshino. So we have 25mm nose armor. We have 30mm side and deck armor. And we have a 25mm aft armor. If we remove the bow and stuff and just check out the citadel, as you can see, it sits quite high. Of course, it does seem pretty well armored, but you can get citadel pretty easily in the Yoshino. So you do have to be careful, especially when you're gonna go broadside in it. But yeah, so that's the Yoshino in terms of the armor. Alright, let's take a look at the commander build I'm running. I have Grease the Gears, Gun Feeder, Priority Target, Superintendent, Survivability Expert, Adrenaline Rush, Concealment Expert, and Top Grade Gunner. In terms of my equipment, I'm running Main Battery Mod 3, which is Reload Mod, Concealment System Mod 1, Prop Mod 1, Aiming System Mod 1, Hydro Search Mod 1, and Main Armaments Mod 1. And I have the Hydro and the spotter plane. You can also run spotter plane mod here, but I just don't have an extra one just to put it on here. But you could if you wanted to. So how do you play the Yoshino? In summary, as you saw, it doesn't really have good armor, so you're not supposed to be playing this aggressively. So what you're supposed to be doing is being a backline HE spammer. And it is a really good backline HE spammer. It can actually output quite a lot of damage. Now Yoshino gets memed on a lot because of its torpedoes, because it has 20-kilometer torpedoes, as we know. And when there was team damage, Yoshinos would just launch 20 km torps and hit their allies. But nowadays, obviously, that can't happen. What the thing is with it, it is actually a really good damage farmer. It's actually one of my highest damage farmers in the game. I'm talking about Yoshino. Obviously, I haven't really played Yoshino B too much, but Yoshino, I average around 165k in, which isn't too bad. The whole concept around it is you're supposed to be sitting at longer ranges and just spamming HE, getting fires because the fire chance is really high, as you can see, 27%. Plus the reload's actually pretty good for a gun of 310mm gun caliber. And of course the HP is decent. It's a super large cruiser. Remember, you have good penetration on your HE. 52, so you do pen 50, you pen the Soviet cruisers, which is really important for you. But that's pretty much it, of course. The Yoshino is a backline HE spammer, but it does really extremely well at it. Obviously, when it comes to brawling and stuff, it's not really, it's actually not too good. I must say, it's not really a good brawler, so please do not play it overly aggressive. But yes, that's pretty much the Yoshino. Strengths, I would say, is the guns, obviously. Weaknesses, I would say, is the armor of it. But moving over to Napoli here, as you can see, let's take a look at this armor layout for Napoli. It has 25mm nose armor, but it comes with a 60mm icebreaker this time. So as we can see, we have more armor. We have a 60mm side plate and a 40mm deck, so quite a lot of armor, as you can see, and a 25mm aft, obviously with a shell catcher of 30mm and 25 here. By shell catcher, I mean these boxes here. So if you're kiting away and people aim for these boxes, you're gonna be eating quite a lot of damage, so do be careful about that. But if we take away all the armor, check out the citadel. As you can see, it's angled, 30mm up here, and you also have 30 here. So you have quite a decent fair amount of armor for tankiness. That doesn't mean you should be showing full broadside in Napoli, of course. You should definitely angle it really well. And for my commander build for Napoli, this is a clan battle build. I actually wouldn't recommend you use this. I think this one would be a better suit for it. So run Grease the Gears, Gun Feeder, Priority Target, Superintendent, Survivability Expert, Adrenaline Rush, Concealment Expert, and Radio Location. I think all of them are actually quite useful in randoms. And you could actually use that build in comp just fine, to be honest. It's what I was using before the other build. And for my equipment, I have main battery mod 3, which is reload mod, concealment system mod 1, prop mod 1, secondary battery mod 1, I'll explain it shortly, engine room protection, and main armaments mod 1. So what does the Napoli have going for it? It has a smoke screen, fuel smoke of course, and well, that's pretty much it really. No, I'm joking. So it has the fuel smoke, and most importantly, why I took the secondary battery mod is because it has SAP secondaries. So when you get really close to people, 9.2 kilometer range is the secondary range on Napoli. You can't buff it any higher than that. That's 9.2 with the flag. When you get to close ranges, you can actually output quite a lot of damage very quickly with the secondaries. The secondaries actually do a lot of damage. Especially, you'd be surprised, but even in clan battles, the secondaries do come in really useful. And they could output quite a lot of damage, actually. But yeah, that's the Napoli. Now, Napoli, on the other hand, from Yoshino, is quite opposite of Yoshino. As we talked about with Yoshino, it sits backline HE spamming. Napoli is meant to be played aggressively. So you're trying to get in that secondary range, you're 9.2. Obviously, don't try to go there straight away. Try to play it slowly, get into that range. And, well, that's pretty much it. Try to output some damage. Obviously, the guns are usable at longer ranges. You have 16 kilometer gun range. Your HP is 63k, but you have incredible tankiness, so do make use of it. Obviously, you need to know how to angle well. Don't show full broadside. You will still be able to get dev struck if you show full broadside. Torpedoes are okay. They're the same as Venezia torps, but you get an extra torp per side. They're from the back and they have incredible angles. AA is nothing to write home about. Your speed is really good. And your concealment is incredible. 10.3 kilometer concealment on basically a large cruiser almost. You have 254 millimeter gun caliber. It's good. Like it's definitely a good ship. I would say its main weakness is actually the guns on the Napoli. The guns are actually super underwhelming. But the main strengths are the tankiness, the concealment, the smoke, and the SAP secondaries. Those are all advantages the Napoli has. It's a very good ship overall, I would say. I've played it quite a lot in clan battles. I think my normal Napoli has around 7 million XP on it, if I can find it really quick for you guys. So I definitely played the Napoli a lot. Actually, these are sorted by tier, so I have to go to the left here. I've definitely played Napoli a lot in randoms, ranked, and clan battles. Mostly clan battles though. As you can see, I have 7.1 million XP on it. I've played it quite a lot. And it can be a pretty good ship, an extremely good ship in clan battles. And ranked, to be honest. It's less of a random ship compared to Yoshino because it can't farm as much damage. But it still can be quite fun. The next ship on the list is Kearsarge. Now, I can't really talk about Kearsarge too much because I haven't really played it too much. But what we can look at is the armor layout. You have 32mm nose, 38 side, 38 deck, and 32mm aft. But you also have a 19mm big brick superstructure, plus the 38 millimeter carrier deck here. Why does it have a carrier deck, you might be asking? Well, it is a hybrid ship, so it does launch aircraft. What kind of aircraft does it launch? These are rocket planes, which aren't the exact same as the Tech 3 hybrid battleships that are coming, the American ones, because those are dive bombers, these are rockets. But in terms of my commander build, I have preventative maintenance, gun feeder, grease the gears, brisk, adrenaline rush, fire prevention expert, concealment expert, and emergency repair expert. In terms of equipment, I have artillery plotting room mod 2, which gives you better accuracy, concealment system mod 1, prop mod 1. There's also air groups mod 1, which could be actually quite interesting. It does buff your planes. Honestly, that could probably be a better pick than prop 1. Artillery plotting room mod 1, which gives you more range. Damage Control System Mod 1, and Main Armaments Mod 1. You want to take the extra range because you don't get a swatter plane on this ship, so having the more range would be really comfortable for most players. 22.7 with range mod. So what are the strengths of the Kearsarge and what are the weaknesses? Well, I would say the weakness of the Kearsarge mostly is the size of it. It is quite big for tier 9, therefore it's super easy to hit and super farmable. That's the truth of it. But the strengths are obviously the ability for itself to spot for itself. Obviously, Missouri has radar 10 kilometer. Kearsarge has rocket planes which can cross the map, spot something for you, can come back, get a salvo off if you time everything really well. You also get these rockets which just demolish people. These rockets are actually extremely good, by the way. I've seen, well, I've experienced me playing, for example, G9 or something. The rockets come in and I get, I'm not even joking, sometimes up to 15 to 18k sometimes. Not every time, but sometimes yes. If I'm caught broadside to the rockets because I have to angle to someone else, yes, I'm gonna be getting smashed by these rockets. So these rockets are extremely good even if you only have 5 planes. Another strength of the ship is the guns. I think the guns are wonderful. They reload really slowly, yes, but you get 12 North Carolina shell guns. Obviously, as we know, Minnesota is a tier 9 texture ship. That gets worse guns because it gets, I believe, Colorado guns at tier 9. You can still get 12, but you get a worse reload than these, which are better guns. So that's pretty interesting. Also, it goes fast. I mean, 30 knots is not too bad. That's without speed flag. You can, of course, put speed flag on it. Plus, there's a brisk on board as well, so it goes even faster. And your concealment is 13.3 kilometers on the Kearsarge. Moving over to Pommern, as you can see here. Now, I don't play this ship much, I'm gonna be honest. I was really excited for this ship when it was coming out ages ago, but I believe it got kind of slightly nerfed with the guns, so it kind of went into like a secondary focus style ship. But it is still really useful in ranked battles, I must say. So the build, well, I don't know, I don't really play secondary ships, but what I'm seeing here is Demolition Expert, Inertia Fuse High Explosive, Long Range Secondary Battery Shells, Adrenaline Rush, Manual Secondary Battery Aiming, Concealment Expert, and Fire Prevention Expert. And then for my modules here, Auxiliary Armaments Mod 2, Concealment System Mod 1, Prop Mod 1, Secondary Battery Mod 1, Damage Control System Mod 1, and Main Armaments Mod 1. You can obviously run the Hydra mod instead. The reason I don't take this one is because I prefer concealment when I'm playing secondary ships, because if I'm not gonna, if I'm gonna get spotted at 15 kilometers, I'm obviously not gonna be able to get into secondary range too easily. I'd rather get spotted at 13.6, so I can actually close the distance relatively easy, because it's only a 1.6 kilometer difference right there. Obviously nowadays, oh, the armor layout I forgot to show you. 32mm nose armor. As you can see, the armor is actually extremely good on this thing. A lot of icebreakers, 150s, 80 deck. But you have gigantic superstructure, which is super farmable, and your ship is huge, so you do take a lot of HE and fire damage on it. But in terms of the strengths and weaknesses, I would say the strength is, well, the Hydra, I guess. You have a FDG hull with Torps, which isn't too bad, honestly, an FDG hull. I would say, honestly, unpopular opinion, but the weakness is definitely the guns on this thing. Sure, you have 12 of them. They're 380s, which aren't the best, obviously. And the reload is 33 seconds. Obviously, you could put reload mod on that, but that would only put it down to 30 or 29 seconds. So it's not anything to be spectacular over. I know a lot of people really like the Pommern. Personally, I actually don't enjoy it too much. It's not one of those ships I would log in and play ever, to be honest. But that is the Pommern. Bart B. This ship is wonderful, by the way. So let's start off with the armor layout. And as you can see, there's anything spectacular about it. It's all 32mm armor. But obviously, even though it's all 32mm armor, it still is quite good. Let's look at our commander build. We have preventative maintenance, gun feeder, grease the gears, brisk, adrenaline rush, concealment expert, fire prevention expert, and emergency repair expert. And in terms of equipment, I have main battery mod 3, concealment system mod 1, prop mod 1, aiming system mod 1, engine boost modification 1, and main armaments mod 1. And as you can see via the consumables here, we have a speed boost, reload booster, obviously a heal and DCP. As you can see, HP 69,000, obviously really low, because this is, I believe, the same class as Richelieu, which is a tier 8 battleship. but it definitely has some improvements over that. You obviously have the reload booster, you have incredible gun range on jump bar, the pen is really good on the AP, and the reload is 22.9 seconds. That's with reload mod. Don't forget you have AR, which is gonna buff that. Don't forget you also have your reload booster, which is gonna half that every time you get the consumable off, and I think you have 4 of them. Yeah, you do have 4 of them. The AA is actually alright, it's nothing too special. Your top speed, 31.5 as you can see here, but that obviously claps on when you have the engine boost on, 8%, and you also have brisk on. Isn't that another 8% or 10%? It's 10%. So yes, you can get incredible top speed, and the concealment is actually quite alright, 12.9. Strengths of the jump bar, definitely the guns, they're wonderful. It's an incredible ship. Honestly, the guns and top speed of the ship are incredible. It allows you to rotate, get better map position, get crossfires on enemy targets. It's a very wonderful ship in that regard. In terms of weaknesses, obviously the armor is the weak aspect of the jump bar. You only have 32mm armor everywhere. And obviously, I guess if you want to count it as weakness, you only have 8 guns, but your 8 guns have an incredibly good rate of fire, 22.9 seconds. So I wouldn't say 8 guns is too bad. 380mm caliber could be seen as a downside because you don't have too much overmatch, but again, you're meant to be spamming HE and AP, both of them in this ship. Now, how do I play this ship? How would you play this one? I actually didn't mention it for Kearsarge and Pommern, but for jump bar, how you're meant to be playing it is you're kind of going on a flank or mid, whatever. Don't go run in. Don't run in, please. It's not tanky. So stay in a relatively decent position. I would say 14 kilometers on average, I would say. Just don't be overextended is what I'm trying to say. Maybe around 14 kilometers, and try to establish crossfires with your team via the top speed, you know. Rotate around. Check where your battleships are. Don't stay exactly where they are. Go around maybe, see if where the enemy team is angling. If they're angling to you, HE. If they're angling to your team and they're broadside to you, use AP. Be smart with the jump bar. Don't just spam HE. Don't just spam AP. Please spam both, please. And obviously you have gun feeder, so you can switch ammo type really quickly. And you also have reload booster, which obviously makes your reload really fast, so you can do more decision making at will. But this ship is a wonderful ship. Honestly, this is probably one of my highest recommendation ships here. But yeah, actually I'm also missing one ship here. I forgot. It's the Alaska. Oh no, where is this? How did I forget the Alaska? But it's coming up next anyway, so I added it to the list here. But yeah, so let's take a look at the Alaska next. I forgot to put it right there. Alright, so anyway, this is the Alaska B, a wonderful ship again. Armor layout, we have 27mm armor on the nose. We have 28mm side armor, 36mm deck armor. We have Giga Superstructure, sure, and 27mm aft armor. If we want to take a look at the Citadel, it's underwater, so you're quite relaxed in the Alaska. Still don't show full broadside, please. Make sure you use your angles really well, because if you show full broadside in anything in this game, you will get smashed most of the time. Maybe not Citadel, but you'll still get smashed. For the Commander build, I'm running Grease the Gears, Gun Feeder, Priority Target, Superintendent, Survivability Expert, Concealment Expert, Adrenaline Rush, and Top Grade Gunner. In terms of my equipment, I'm running Main Battery Mod 3, Reload Mod, Concealment System Mod 1, Prop Mod 1, Aiming System Mod 1, Damage Control System Mod 1. You could run Radar Mod or Hydro Mod, it's up to you. And Main Armaments Mod 1. And we are running the Radar and the Hydro on the Alaska here. So, what does it do? Well, why is the Alaska so good, right? Why did it get removed from the game? Well, it's actually quite a good cruiser for tier 9, you have to keep in mind. It was one of the first large cruisers in the game. I wouldn't say the first, I think it was third or fourth. After Stalingrad and Kronstadt for sure, I believe. But, as you see, it has quite good armor for a cruiser at tier 9, so it can tank really well, right? It has quite a lot of HP. The guns are not bad. They have improved AP angles, I believe. Plus 8.9k AP alpha. The HE is also quite good. I would definitely use the HE as well in this thing. Don't just use AP. Again, I've been saying this for every ship almost I've mentioned so far. Don't just use one ammo type on these ships. Like, please use multiple ammo types if possible, because it's better like that. Because if something angles to you, okay, you can use the AP and stuff, and it has improved angles and you can do quite well. But if you set a fire, it'll end up smashing the enemy guy, especially if you DCP single fire, and then you set a perma fire. Obviously, only do this when he's angled and you don't overmatch him. So if you're shooting, for example, a Musashi that's angled, why would you use AP, get a 4k salvo when you can get a 4k salvo with HE, get a fire, and the fire will take for 14k damage, right? So, or 10k, whatever. So it could be really useful to use that HE. Maneuverability, it's, I mean, same speed as pretty much every American cruiser. The concealment's 12.2, so not bad for a cruiser of its size. How would you play the Alaska? Honestly, I wouldn't play it super close range. Obviously, you can get on rocks because it has pretty bad arcs, so you can arc over them. But be in a position where you can try support your team with radar, but then again, if you are supporting your team with radar, do not put yourself in a bow-in position where, let's say, your teammates die or something, you're caught bow-in, you're dead. Make sure maybe reverse in, something like that, and be able to, well, radar. And don't run in at the start to get a radar off. That's not good. Like, take your time, let the people spot for you, see what's going on, and then push in, radar, push out. Like, as in, like, push in. By that, what I mean is go in, maybe dark, angle out, and then maybe reverse in slowly. Just don't, if there's too many ships on your flank, don't try to pressure yourself for radar, because you will die very quickly. Now, even though it has good armor, guys, and I'm gonna talk about the strengths and weaknesses now, even though it has good armor, you shouldn't be playing it overly aggressive, because it still has 60-second fires on a cruiser, and you don't have the ability to run fire prevention. So people say, like, fires on battleships are very mean. Obviously they are. But on Alaska, it's even meaner because you don't have the ability to run fire prevention. So you're going to be there. You could get set on 4 fires. You could. Or they could hit you in the middle and set 2 fires. You have to be really careful. And you can't run fire prevention to deal with that. But that's the Alaska, a very wonderful ship. So strengths and weaknesses. You have the guns, I would say, is a strength. The armor is a strength. The radar is a strength, obviously. Obviously, it's a tier 9 cruiser with all of these things. Weaknesses. I mean, sure, the arcs could be considered a weakness. But most importantly, I would say as a weakness for the Alaska is the 60-second fires with no fire prevention. So as you can see, it has a lot of advantages going for it. Like I said with John Barr, Alaska is another very wonderful ship I would recommend for you guys if you're willing to get it. Asashio, when it got released, obviously I'm not going to show the armor layout because it's a destroyer, just 19mm armor. For the commander build, I'm running preventative maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, concealment expert, adrenaline rush, fill the tubes, swift fish, and main battery and A specialist. For my equipment, I have concealment system mod 1, prop mod 1, torpedo tubes mod 1, engine boost mod 1, and main armaments mod 1. So that's my Asashio build or whatever. So for the ship, well, it's a destroyer. Strengths and weaknesses, I'm just gonna get into it. The strengths, I would say, are definitely the torpedoes, the concealment, and the maneuverability is not too bad. But I would say mostly it's the concealment and the torpedoes. You have 5.4 detection, which is the same as Calgaro, best in the game actually. And your torpedoes are 20-kilometer torps, and you can only hit battleships and carriers. That sure could be considered a downside, but they're extremely good torps. They do 21,000 damage each. You have a torpedo reload booster plus smoke, and these things are basically invisible torps. They're wonderful. They go 74 knots. I mean, they're incredible torpedoes, to be honest. But if you get matchmaking with no battleships, no carrier, or like one battleship, you're gonna suffer quite a lot. Especially if you're facing a radar cruiser, you can't really do much to it. So in terms of strengths and weaknesses, strengths are the torps. Weaknesses are also the torps if you're fighting certain ships. You can't hit cruisers, submarines, or destroyers with the torps. The HP isn't too bad. I mean, 17.9k. The guns, even though a lot of people say Japanese guns are really bad, they're not the worst. Like, as in, like, they're not the... Okay, they're not the best, but they're not bad. Please use them. Like, if you have the ability to help gunboat a destroyer, and you have a lot of HP, and you're in an easy spot to kill him or do some damage to him, do that. Because it's... The guns aren't bad. The guns are not bad at all, by the way, on Asashio. This ship, should I recommend it? I wouldn't really recommend it to most, because is just very one-dimensional in terms of what it can do. It can fight battleships really well, but that's pretty much it. Obviously, it got removed a long time ago, but I don't know. I wouldn't really recommend people to get it, to be honest. Next one is Atago here, as you can see. So for my Atago, let's take a look at the armor layout. We have 25mm nose armor, 27mm side armor, 41mm deck armor, and 25mm aft. Of course, we have a 102 citadel, whatever. The citadel is above the water, so you do have to be careful about it. Remember, I did make an Atago video. I actually made a video on Napoli so far, and Atago from the ships we mentioned so far. Napoli and Atago, I have two very detailed videos on them on my channel. One of them is a fresh look for Atago, and one of them is a thought process for Napoli. If you're really interested in buying those two, please do make sure to take a look at those videos. They're not the B versions, but they're the exact same ships, guys. These are clone ships, remember. For my commander build, I'm running Grease the Gears, Gun Feeder, Priority Target, Superintendent, Survivability Expert, Concealment Expert, Adrenaline Rush, and Top Grade Gunner. You can replace Top Grade Gunner with anything you want. In terms of my modules, I'm running Concealment System Mod 1, Prop Mod 1, Aiming System Mod 1, Hydro Search Mod 1, and Main Armaments Mod 1. So for the Atago, its strengths are definitely its concealment, its maneuverability, and its guns, and its HP and survivability due to the fact that it has a heal on a tier 8 cruiser, which is an uncommon thing, to be honest. Defenses isn't crazy. The torpedoes are actually pretty good also, but they're very obvious 10km range. So let's talk about the strengths here. 9.3km detection, pretty good. I mean, it's incredible. 9.3km on a heavy cruiser at tier 8 is really good. Speed on the thing, 37.3. Extremely fast cruiser, goes faster than Akizuki, so it's very fast. Main battery guns, you have a 16-second reload, which might not seem good, but you have 10 guns, and they do quite a lot of damage, because the HE alpha is really high, and they also have, I believe, destroyer dispersion, like the Zhao line. The pen is 34, so you can pen battleships, obviously, with 32mm armor, which at this low tier is pretty much almost all of them. You have 15.8km range, which is definitely enough at tier 8. It's even enough to fight tier 10s. And hit points 44.1k, but you have to keep in mind you also have the heal to help you out. But yes, why is the Atago so good, even though it's so old? Well, even though it's so old, the armor layout, even though it doesn't look too crazy, the 41mm deck makes you quite tanky at longer ranges when shells are coming in from, well, your deck. Because most of the time they do end up bouncing, which is really nice, and you can actually angle tank your ship, which is really nice on a cruiser. Not something, you know, which we get on a lot of them at this tier, especially. Not even on a Yoshino you can do that. So, yes, very good armor layout on the Atago. Very good speed, very good concealment. Very nice ship overall. This is another ship I would definitely recommend you take a look at, Atago. In terms of playstyle, I do have a detailed video on it. So you can go watch that. But in terms of playstyle, you're pretty much an open water HE spammer against ships. Kaga. Well, it's a carrier, guys. I'm not really gonna say anything. I don't really have a build either to show you for it, but I just wanted to show you, I guess, the camo for the Kaga. Here it is. Here's what it looks like. That's pretty much it. I'm actually not really gonna cover the carriers too much, to be honest, because I don't really know what to say. For Massachusetts next, very wonderful ship. As we know, it got removed from the game also. So let's start off with the armor layout. 32mm armor on the nose. You have a 38mm deck, 32 side, and a 32mm aft. You also have a pretty good torpedo protection, 46%, which is really good. For my commander build, I am running Demolition Expert, Grease the Gears, long range secondary battery shells, manual secondary battery shell aiming, Adrenaline Rush, Concealment Expert, and Fire Prevention Expert. Like I said, I think these are good. You can actually replace Fire Prevention with Emergency Repair Expert, but I really want to have Concealment because, like I said before, if you want to get into secondary range, having a 16km detection isn't really going to help you out too much. For my modules, Concealment System Mod 1, Prop Mod 1, Secondary Battery Mod 1, Damage Control System Mod 1, and Auxiliary Armaments Mod 1. And of course, I'm running the spotter plane because the fighter isn't really the best. In terms of the HP, 66k, not bad. The guns are alright, the accuracy isn't too incredible, but they're 406, 9 of them at tier 8. The speed is okay, and you also have 13 kilometer detection, which isn't too bad. The AA defense isn't the worst, but obviously it's not crazy. But what are the strengths and weaknesses for Massachusetts? I would say the strengths are definitely the secondaries. The guns are okay, but they're still alright. They're definitely usable. So secondaries are the strength. And obviously the heal, which is a 40-second cooldown heal, keep in mind. One of the first, if not the first 40-second battleship cooldown heal in the game. Which means you get a really quick cooldown on the heal, which is really nice for you, because when you're going into these aggressive positions, you can get heals very quickly off. But that means you're going to run out of heals very quickly, so do be careful about that. Weaknesses of the ship. I would say the superstructure is pretty miserable, to be honest. It's huge, so you have to be careful when playing against it. And the thing about the secondaries I forgot to mention, they're really accurate. So even though they lack pen, which could be seen as a disadvantage, you have 21mm pen, you have really good accuracy on them. That's pretty much the Massachusetts. Saipan B, another ship I can't really talk about because I don't know what to say. But here's what it looks like, guys. The Saipan B looks pretty cool, I guess. We have 3 Saipans in the game. Saipan B, and Sanzang. Next one is Chkalov, another carrier, which I don't really know what to say with it. It's a carrier. So I don't really know what to say except show you the camo. Here you go. Here you go. I'm not really a carrier person, guys. But here's what the Chkalov looks like. Next one, a ship I love. Mainz B. Wonderful ship. Amazing ship. Let's take a look at the armor layout. We have 25mm nose armor, 40mm icebreaker, 25mm side armor, 27mm deck, and 25mm aft. For those of you wondering, by the way, I have a very detailed video on how I play Mainz. It's called Mainz, I believe, German light cruiser. It's on my channel. I uploaded it 5 days ago. It's in the fresh look. It'll be in the thumbnail. You'll see fresh look. Just click on my channel. You can see it if you want to see how to play the Mainz. It's a very good ship, obviously. But let's take a look at our captain. We have Grease the Gears, Gun Feeder, Priority Target, Superintendent, Survivability Expert, Concealment Expert, Adrenaline Rush, and Top Grade Gunner. You could honestly remove Superintendent if you're not intending to play Hindenburg, because, well, you don't have a heal on this, so you don't need an extra one. Concealment System Mod 1, Prop Mod 1, Aiming System Mod 1, Hydra Search Mod 1, and Main Armaments Mod 1 for my modules here. And obviously I'm running Hydro. I believe German Hydro is a wonderful thing to use. You should definitely use the Hydro over the DFA on German ships, especially because you get 6-kilometer Hydro, so it's very good if you're gonna be able to, well, rush a DD in smoke, for example. Obviously I don't recommend doing that, but let's say you are in that situation, you will have 6-kilometer Hydro, so you'll definitely have advanced knowledge on that. HP, 46,000 HP, not bad at all. Guns, 6-second reload, 12 of them, improved pen, so you don't require IFHE to pen things. And long range, 17.5, with very usable arcs. Torpedoes, you get 16 torps, but they're really short range, so I wouldn't try to use them too much. AA isn't too special. Speed is quite slow, sure, and concealment is quite bad for a light cruiser. But obviously, strengths of the ship, the guns are incredible on this ship. That is the strength of the Mainz. The guns are incredible. I love this ship too much. It's an amazing ship, guys. It's wonderful. My average, I believe, is around 150,000. Maybe let's put it around 140 if I take all the Mainz models, because for example, my Cross of Dorn is 130k or 139k average. I showed this in my Mainz video, by the way. I uploaded a few days ago. So you can totally take a look at that if you wanted to. But here, Cross of Dorn average is 132. That's over 6 games. If we take a look at our Mainz B, that's over 1 game, 157. But if we take a look at our normal Mainz, which I've played the most, if I can find it, which is the hardest part of the video, here it is. My average over 40 games, 73% win rate, is 154k average over 40 games. So obviously it's a really incredible damage farmer. It's a very wonderful ship. Very wonderful ship. How are you supposed to play it? Try to be Cautious with how your concealment is. Don't get too close to battleships. You get smashed. You have 25mm armor everywhere. That's definitely a weakness. Speed is a weakness. Concealment is a weakness. Malte, you're listing so many weaknesses. It's true, because those are very weak things about the mines. But the guns really and truly make up for it, because the guns are super incredible for tier 8. That's pretty much the mines. Yeah, you're supposed to be farming battleships, if possible. Even cruisers you can farm. But don't get too close to them, because you will get smashed. Next ship is the Tirpitz. We're going to be taking a look at armor layout. 32mm nose armor. You have a 60mm icebreaker. 160mm side plate with a 315 armor build. 50mm deck. And 32mm aft. That is the Tirpitz armor plate, of course. And it is very hard to citadel. Let's take a look at the commander build. Demo expert, grease the gears, long range battery shells, adrenaline rush, secondary battery shells, concealment expert, and fire prevention expert. Equipment, I have concealment system mod 1, prop mod 1, secondary battery mod 1, damage control system mod 1, and auxiliary armaments mod 1. Very wonderful ship. Again, a lot of people don't like the Tirpitz. I actually quite enjoy Bismarck more, actually, than Tirpitz. I think Tirpitz is alright, but I do honestly prefer the Bismarck. Now, why do I say this? Tirpitz has torps, sure. They're very cool torps. Yes, 6 kilometer. You can be in that range and do well. But the thing with Bismarck is it has hydro. And when it comes to an aggressive battleship with secondaries, torps do not beat hydro, guys. Especially if they're 6 kilometer torps. Hydro is definitely a wonderful feature on the Bismarck. So, honestly, even though I do like the Tirpitz quite a lot, I think the Bismarck is a better option, and the Bismarck is free. You can just grind it to tier 8 on the German battleship line if we take a look at it. Look at it! Here it is. Bismarck, tier 8. I do think it's actually quite better than the Tirpitz, but Tirpitz is still alright. Advantages, of course, the armor is pretty good, except for the superstructure, which is gigantic. The speed is quite good on Tirpitz. The concealment's okay. The guns are okay. 26-second reload, I guess. The accuracy is pretty miserable, but you can still get quite good damage sometimes. But the whole thing about it is the secondaries. Now, why am I not building for IFHE on Tirpitz or Bismarck? Because even though it could be very good, you could pen quite a lot of things. After trying them both, the builds quite a lot, different game modes and everything, I do think setting fires is, like, the fire chance is pretty incredible. Like, there's a video, I think, on my channel with Bismarck, or 2 of them, I think, where I'm just demolishing people, not by penning them, but also by setting fires. The fires, I'm getting quite a lot of fires with the secondaries, so I don't want to build into IFHE, because I'm scared I'm going to lose the fire chance. But you can totally build into IFHE if you so wish. If you really want 32mm pen on your small caliber guns, you just have to replace grease the gears. How is Tirpitz supposed to be played? Honestly, like, aggressively, especially if you're in tier 6 matchmaking, just go for it, play the game, have fun. If you're in submarine plus CV or tier 10 matchmaking, be more cautious. I'm not saying be on the back line, but be quite like 15 kilometers, figure things out first, stay with your team a bit, and then if you find an opportunity to push up, then go ahead. But don't try to force yourself at the start of the game to die instantly. It's not worth it. Next is Graf Zeppelin B, which I of course can't really talk about because it's a carrier, but here it is, and this is what it looks like, I guess, with the black camo. Very interesting indeed. There you go. I should really start learning what these carriers are and how to play them, guys, but that's probably a future thing maybe. I'm sorry, I don't really know enough about carriers to talk about them too well, but there it is. Next is the Cossack B. I think this is a wonderful premium, guys. Honestly, a wonderful premium. Let's take a look at our commander build. We have preventative maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, superintendent, concealment expert, adrenaline rush, and consumables enhancements, plus main battery and A specialist. For my equipment, I have concealment system mod 1, steering gears mod 1, aiming system mod 1, engine boost mod 1, and main armaments mod 1. Why do I say the Cossack is wonderful? Let's take a look at its strengths and weaknesses. It has a 5.5 kilometer detection, second best at tier, second best I think in the game, or at tier, well, let's say just at tier. Maneuverability, 37.8 knots, incredibly fast destroyer. Plus you have British acceleration, so plus speed boost. So you can go really fast with this thing, which is pretty nice. You can juke shells as well. Torpedoes, well, not a strength. Guns, definitely a strength on the ship, even though they reload 4.8 seconds and they have horrible arcs. You get 8 guns. You get 8 guns, and that's really useful for you. They're pretty good guns. HP wise, 18k, nothing to be special about. And torpedoes, well, you only get 4 of them, you only get 1 rack, but you are able to single launch them, and you'd be surprised how many actually torps you can land in a Cossack game on average. It's actually pretty decent. How are you supposed to be playing this ship? Cap contesting, try to fight the enemy DDs as long as they're at a similar gun level or power level to you at tier 8. Obviously, you can pretty much fight whatever you want at tier 8. Use your smoke to the advantage. Use the speed boost to your advantage. Use the hydro to your advantage. You have a hydro, 3-kilometer range. You have British smoke, so sure, they fade away really quickly, but they reload really quickly too. And you have 7 of them. Make sure you use them. It's a really good ship, guys, the Cossack. It's a good gunboat, I think. You can average pretty decent numbers in it. It's fun. It's easy to play. I would say Kid is still easier to play, but in terms of B ships, I think this is a wonderful destroyer to get. That's pretty much it with it. Next ship is the Loyang B. Loyang, obviously, as we know, has been released like a million years ago, so it's quite old now. It hasn't really standed the test of time too well throughout the ages, especially with more destroyers, with hydros coming out, destroyers with radars coming out at tier 8. It's not doing too well in the current meta, but it's not a bad ship by no means. It's pretty much very similar to Benson, just a bit different because you don't have the speed of Benson, but instead you have the hydro. Also, you have 1 less gun than Benson, so your DPM is reduced by 20%. Let's take a look at our commander build first. So we have preventative maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, concealment expert, adrenaline rush, fill the tubes, consumable enhancements, demo expert, and incoming fire alert. And then for equipment, I have concealment system mod 1, prop mod 1, torpedo tubes mod 1, hydro search mod 1, and main armaments mod 1. What are the strengths and weaknesses about the Loyang? Your strength is definitely the 5.5 kilometer hydro at tier 8, which is quite a long range hydro at tier 8. It's pretty good. Your concealment is okay at 5.8. And the HP, well, that's actually not good. The torpedoes are also not crazy. They're Benson torps, so they're not too crazy. Maneuverability, it goes 40 knots, which isn't too slow to be honest. But remember, you don't have the ability to use speed boost. You can if you really want to use the speed boost, but you're going to replace your hydro. So I don't think it's a really good idea, because that's a whole gimmick about the ship. If you want to play speed boost Loyang, you should play Benson because it's free. But the weaknesses of the ship, definitely, I guess, the guns. They're nothing too special. 3.3 second reload. You can buff it slightly, I guess. 0.1 seconds. It's not good, guys. 3.3 seconds with 4 guns is not good. HP 17.8, not good HP pool. Torpedoes, they're okay, but they do 11,000 damage, which is 0 damage. You could run the different torps to get more damage, but they reload slower, and they also only have 6.7 kilometer of range. But it's always up to you what you always want to run. But the Loyang nowadays, how are you supposed to play it? Obviously cap contester style, but don't overdose because there's a lot of radars and hydros nowadays, so you do have to be a bit more careful. And just poke against battleships, I guess, you know, with their little tiny guns, and maybe try to use the torps. But it's not a wonderful ship, guys. It's not an easy experience. It's definitely one of the harder ships to play, especially at tier 8. Last 4 remaining ships here, guys. So we have Sims B. Let's take a look at the commander build. We have preventative maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, concealment expert, adrenaline rush, fill the tubes, swift fish, and main battery and A specialist. For my equipment, I have prop mod 1, aiming system mod 1, engine room protection, and main armaments mod 1. And then we are running the speed boost. You can obviously run DFA if you want to, but I prefer the speed boost on these types of ships. Strengths. Weaknesses, we have concealment, 6.6 kilometers, pretty bad. We have 16.6k HP, which is really low. The torpedoes are pretty bad torps. They do 0 damage. They go 0 knots. And, well, they have long range, but you can switch them to the actual 7km torps, which I think are the better option, to be honest. They go faster, they do more damage. The reload is actually worse as well, but the range is obviously worse. I'm joking about it has no strength. Its strength is definitely its top speed. It goes 40.4 knots, and you add speed boost on top of that, so you can go with an incredible rate of speed, or incredible speed, sorry. And in terms of your guns, you have 3.2 second reload. Even though I just said on Loyang, they're not that good at tier 8. On tier 7, they're actually not too bad. I don't think it's as good as Mahan, but 3.2 second reload is not bad. Obviously, the main issue is its concealment, I would say, guys, and the torps. But the guns and the speed can make it pretty active around the map, and you can do quite okay, especially against the destroyers, which have pretty bad concealment at tier 7. And it is a pretty comfortable ship to play. It's relatively easy to play, and it could be quite fun for you guys to play The Sims. Next ship is the Atlanta B. Atlanta is a wonderful ship, guys. I think it's a great ship. I also have a video on this. Sorry, I forgot to mention. I have a video on... So far I have a video on the Yoshino. No, sorry. So far I have a video on the Napoli, the Atago, the Mainz, the Cossack, the Loyang, and the Atlanta. So I have videos for all of those. Those are like as in by videos, I don't mean like highlights, because obviously I have highlights on a lot of other ships. But I'm talking about proper dedicated videos on how I play those ships, and proper reviews on each ship where you can watch games. How you're meant to find them is go on my channel. For the tier 10 specifically, it's a playlist called Thought Process. You can find Napoli there. In terms of the rest, there you just go onto the playlist Fresh Look on my channel. It's called Fresh Look. There's videos for all of those ships I just mentioned, and they're very detailed reviews where you can watch them in 2022 meta, so they're very up to date. Even though you might see them 5 months ago, they're still very up to date, because it does include the submarine meta and everything. So they're very up to date videos, so you should probably take a look at them. In terms of the armor on the Atlanta, we have 13mm armor, which is 0, guys. You have 0 armor on Atlanta, and the Citadel sits above the ship, but it's quite high, guys. So as you can see, it looks really weird. Look how weird it looks because it's angled, but it definitely just sits above the water, so you have to be quite careful with it. In terms of my commander build, I have Last Stand, Incoming Fire Alert, Priority Target, Survivability Expert, Concealment Expert, Inertia Fuse for high explosive shells, Adrenaline Rush, and heavy HE and SAP shells. In terms of equipment, I have Prop Mod 1, Aiming System Mod 1, Surveillance Radar Mod 1, and Main Armaments Mod 1. I am running the Hydro. You can run the DFA. If you choose to run the DFA, you have infinite of them, so you can just spam them out whenever you see planes, because you won't run out. But I prefer to run the Hydro. Strengths about the ship, definitely the guns. The guns are wonderful. 4.8 second reload, 13.3 kilometer gun range. Sure, low gun range, and it could be a weakness in tier 9 matchmaking, but Atlanta can do quite well even in tier 9 sometimes if you use islands really well. Weaknesses, the top speed is okay. The concealment is actually quite good. Okay. So strengths, you have maneuverability, concealment, and guns. Those are all really good. Weaknesses, the torpedoes are pretty much almost unusable. You can use them sometimes. I have used them before. They can be quite useful if someone's rushing you and you're around an island. And your armor and HP are 0, so you have 0 survivability, so you have to be really careful. How do you play the ship? Island camping, guys. You have to sit behind rocks, obviously. That is something you can do because the arcs are really bad. So you sit behind islands and you can do quite well like that. That's pretty much it. You obviously have a radar, which is super useful at tier 7, 8.5 kilometer range, and you have a Hydro, which is nice, of course. Scharnhorst B, guys. Scharnhorst B. For my commander build. For my armor layout. Sorry, it's been like 50 minutes now. And I'm quite tired now. But we're soon done from all the ships. So we have armor layout. We have 26mm nose armor. 50mm deck. 45 side plate. And 70mm icebreaker. We also have the aft end armor, which is 26mm. In terms of my commander build, I recommend running this build in randoms: preventative maintenance, gun feeder, grease the gears, brisk, adrenaline rush, emergency repair expert, concealment expert, and fire prevention expert. In terms of my equipment, I have prop mod 1, aiming system mod 1, damage control system mod 1, and main armaments mod 1. Now you might be wondering, why am I not running a secondary build? I recommend you run the secondary build in game modes such as ranked or brawls, but in terms of randoms, I don't recommend running a second build on Scharnhorst, because honestly, main guns, I mean, even though they're not good, they're not good. Even though they're not good, you can still use them quite a fair amount, and having only secondary range might limit you quite a lot in the Scharnhorst, especially in randoms. For your HP, 56,000, but you have incredible armor, so it's not too bad. The gun reload is really good, 20 seconds. You have 283mm guns, which aren't too good, but you can load HE and do quite a decent amount of damage. And the AP also does quite a lot of damage on broadsides. And the torpedoes are okay, they're definitely usable at tier 7. Maneuverability, pretty fast ship, to be honest, 31.5. You also have brisk on top of that, so you can go quite fast. Quite. And in terms of concealment, it's not good. In terms of concealment, you have 13.7 detection, which is not good at all. And that's with the full concealment build. So, yeah, I mean, it's not bad, but it's not good. But remember, it's tier 7, so concealment isn't too much of a problem against other battleships. Your gun range is 20 kilometers, so you have quite a fair amount of range to play it. How are you meant to play the Scharnhorst? You're meant to play it aggressively, but in a way where you're not being permanently farmed. Obviously, you could take a secondary build. You could. It can work, but I definitely recommend the main gun build for random battles. But still try to play as aggressively as possible and try output damage. But don't be overly aggressive in a way where you're caught out in the open and you're gonna die. Try to use islands to your advantage, things like this. Now, obviously, I'm not going into hyper detail on how to play these ships, guys. I believe that should happen in a detailed video in the future where I talk about each ship. Especially in the Fresh Look series, especially for these premiums, Fresh Look series, I'll try to make and cover a video on each one of these in the future, and their normal configuration, which is the same configuration, just without the B camo. But yes. So, for our last ship today, it's the Shinonome B. Now, this is really interesting, because Wargaming have never sold the Shinonome. It's always been, and this is how I got the original Shinonome, it's been a campaign reward pretty much since the first time they released campaigns, an honorable service Shinonome. But this is the first time they're doing this where you can buy a Shinonome outright, I believe. So here it is. Let's take a look at our commander build. We have preventative maintenance, last stand, survivability expert, concealment expert, adrenaline rush, fill the tubes, swift fish, and main battery and A specialist. And then for my equipment, I have prop mod 1, torpedo tubes mod 1, engine room protection, and main armaments mod 1. What are the strengths of the Shinonome? Well, you have three torps basically. They're 8 kilometers, so they're not as good as Fubuki torps. You have 6.1 detection, which isn't too good. You're not that fast. You're 36.8, so it's not too fast. The HP is quite low, and the guns are pretty bad. 8.5 second reload. Honestly, I don't think this ship is that good, to be honest. I had a pretty decent game in it recently when I tried it, and it was like 100k or something. But I don't know, it's not really a wonderful ship, to be honest. I wouldn't recommend you buy this one if you had the option to not buy this one. And especially since you can get it for free in the campaigns, I recommend you get it for free in the campaign instead of grinding it, or just paying for it, sorry, I mean, instead of paying for it. I think you should get it for free in the campaign. So, that's pretty much it for the video, guys. I'm sorry if I missed points. Obviously, this is all unscripted. I'm just kind of talking from my personal experience in each ship and everything. If I missed something, do let me know. If you have any feedback, please do let me know in the comments. Try to not be mean with the feedback, guys, obviously. I tried my best, okay? I didn't obviously write notes. I just felt like recording a video this evening. But yes, guys, that's pretty much every B ship that's in the game that's available for purchase, I believe. So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 4 times 5, guys. If we have any mathematicians in the comments, that's 20 plus 1, so we're 21. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Why are there... Oh, Yoshino B is not... Oh, no, it is. Wait, why are there... I'm clueless, guys. Why are there 20 here? But there's 21 here. What am I missing? Am I this clueless, guys? Well... What? Please call me out in the comments, guys, because I mean, you guys are probably like screaming at your computers. You're like... Oh! Got it. There's no Shinonome B for sale. You get Shinonome B up here. Okay, well, you were probably screaming at me about it, but there you go. I figured it out, guys. I figured it out. But like I said, if you have any feedback in the comments, please do let me know. Just try not to be too harsh about it, guys. If you have any points to add about each and every ship, please do let me know in the comments. And if you want to see a video on a ship which I did not already cover in Fresh Look, please let me know in the comments. But before you do, let me tell you what I have videos on, proper reviews on. So we have one on Loyang. I'm gonna actually put them somewhere in a pinned comment or something, so you know. So I have one for Atlanta, Loyang, Cossack, Mainz, Atago, and Napoli, guys. I have one for each of those ships. So if you want to see a review, a proper review on 2022 meta of any other ship that I didn't mention, do let me know in the comments, okay? And thank you so much for watching. One more thing I wanted to show you, for those people who are wondering about the black camos, can I buy, for example, Yoshino B? Can I buy it with the balloons but have the normal Yoshino camo? Because in exterior, as you can see, you don't have the ability to do that. So what you can do is you go on the right here, click the cog, and we're gonna click, I think it's decorative, and we're gonna turn that off. Now, for each and every B ship I can have the normal camouflage of that ship without using the B camo. Obviously, it will still be called ship B, but you won't have that camo. So that's pretty nice. That is pretty much the video, guys. Sorry it was a super long one, but I believe I talked about every ship, talked about each build, about each ship. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys, and I hope I didn't bore you guys to death. But the whole point with it was you could skip to each and every part. You could skip to each ship you wanted. But thank you, guys. I'll see you in the next video, which should be in 2 days' time. And thank you, and big fan.